See, it's stuff like this that gives me trust issues.
Welcome to the Trust Issues podcast. We have trust issues with the traditional society-dictated path, with the status quo, with the whole get an education, land a job, and work tirelessly until you're 6 feet under. It's time to upgrade your life with the help of us. I'm Erica.
And I'm Kyle Auckland. We're a husband and wife duo, but we're also entrepreneurs, biohackers, and business builders.
Every week, we're dedicated to having purposeful conversations with each other and leading experts on topics like wellness, relationships, and entrepreneurship.
Subscribe to Trust Issues Podcast if you're looking for bold topics, honest dialogue, and valuable lessons. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Trust Issues Podcast. If you've followed us for a little bit now, you know that we love working out, we love movement, and we love to be pain-free. So in my journey of working out, I stumbled across this guy on social media, a couple of different pages, Bam LionHeart. He does Primal movement.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, we kind of had our worldview shook a little bit because we have been so in the CrossFit world, personal trainer world, strength training world, and a lot of the stuff that he teaches is very contradictory to what we knew to be true and what we believed and also what we taught other people. So we knew we had to have him on the show. We knew we needed to interview him, not only because we loved his content, but we also bought his course. And his course is so mind-blowing, and we've been going it through ourselves. And it's helped us with our own movement and kind of repatterning some of our own beliefs around movement and fitness. So Bam has been a movement coach for over 8 years. He has experience in gymnastics, football, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, boxing, Muay Thai, MMA, CrossFit, Olympic weightlifting, endurance running, endurance swimming, climbing, yoga, and modern dance.
He does it all.
He literally does it all. And we are so impressed with this dude. And honestly, this interview was so good. He has such a calming energy and presence about him. And really, he gives so much permission to get back into your body and to really discover your love of movement, whether it's something that you have been doing already, working out, maybe fitness is already your thing, or maybe it's not at all and you're trying to start a new journey. I feel like he gives so much permission on that. And his goal, really, when he works with his clients, is helping you eliminate pain, moving so that you can eliminate pain. You can really get into more education around how you're designed to move and kind of getting us back to the basics of how we were designed to be, how we were as little babes on this earth, walking around and using our little bodies. So we're so excited to have him on the show. We think you're going to love this episode, and we think it's going to rock your world a little bit. So let's dive in. All right, Bam, welcome to the Trust Issues Podcast. We're so excited you're here.
I am super pumped to be here to talk to both of you guys, to share ideas and talk about movement, fitness, everything good.
All the good things. So I think we just need to open the conversation. You know, we shared a little offline how you gave us a little bit of a mind bender. You know, our background, both being in fitness, trainers, CrossFit, we've been moving pretty much our whole lives. And we came across your page. We are in your course. We are recoding, which we're going to talk about what that means. And it's really changed a lot of our worldview. And it was really, like I said, mind-bending to come across what you were teaching and sharing. But firsthand, we're experiencing that what you talk about works. And I think the message you have of getting back to primal movement is something a lot of people need to hear, especially in our day and age today. So let's get into what is primal movement, what is your brand, and what is the purpose behind it, the mission that you have?
Primal movement, if we just take the word primal and the definition of it, like essential or foundational, and then movement. So we're talking about the essential and the foundational movements that are inside of and a part of every single human on this planet right now. These are very basic movements. They can be so simple that we often don't think about them, but also we have a lot of awareness around them right now, like the ability to squat, the ability to hinge, to walk, to run, or to lay down on our side, or lay on our back, lay on our stomachs. It's the progression that each one of us takes when we are an infant until 1 or 2 years old to understand how to bend our legs, to stand up, to walk on one leg, and crawling. All of these are like the basic movements that make up a human being.
And that, like everything you just said right there, it's been funny because when we joined your recode, we were going through it, and the biggest like testimonial we saw was we have an 18-month-old boy, and like watching him grow
And watching him move.
and seeing what you teach and what you live and like just your testimonials of people you've worked with. It's like, this guy's telling the truth, because it's like we're literally watching our son do what you preach. And it's like, oh my word, like this is it.
Yeah. It's a primal movement is a lens that anybody can put on. You don't have to be a coach.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be a practitioner. It's a question of what are the movements that allow me to live my life? And if you really step back, they become very apparent. Like if I want to go somewhere, if I want to go to the grocery store, I have to walk to get there. And if I can't walk, I have to use some other mode of transportation. If I want to get down into the bottom cabinet to pull a pot out, I have to squat down or hinge down. And as you start to see, like, what are the basic movements that comprise 90% of my day, including sitting or laying in my bed, what are those movements? And if we can take a little bit of time to examine those movements, there's like an insane amount of gold and knowledge and this workout mentality that we're very much programmed into. We can take that same mentality into, how do I squat to grab the pot? How do I walk to the grocery store or even to the bathroom? And we realize that there is like an infinite amount of positive potential and change that we can make in those basic movements. And the saying that I love to say is that when you increase the quality of your movement, you directly increase the quality of your life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
true, man.
And we've seen that, and it's the background that we have of moving a specific way for the last however many decades in CrossFit and our strength training.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think was really jarring when we came across your content was just how many people are constantly going to the chiropractor, how many people are constantly in back pain, how many people are, and we saw that as trainers too, how many people were constantly dealing with pain, even though they were moving, they were in the gym, they were showing up, they were hitting the classes, right? They were picking up the weights, and there was something to that. So I'd love to know a little bit more about your background and your story. It seems like you've been in this world, for a long time, and you have so much experience, but what led you to Primal movement? Have you always been aware of it? Has this been something that you had your own personal transformation and it made you an advocate for it? Because, we're arriving at this in our mid 30s, right? Of like, oh, wow, maybe a lot of the things we've been doing haven't been ideal. So we just want to hear your story and really like how you got here.
Yeah, it definitely was a personal transformation that allowed me to be in the position where I'm at right now, to speak on this and to advocate, to coach and inspire other people to take upon the same journey. But it started when I was very young. Being like a normal young male, you want to be very active. And so I was outside, I was climbing trees, I was running. I had 3 brothers that I could play outside with. So we were always moving, and even if we were inside, we were, building things or playing with our hands. We were just constantly on the floor or outside. And that made me feel the best. I knew that I felt the best when I was playing outside, when I was creating things with my hands, like building Legos. And as I got older, that opportunity, that space that we provide to our children, that's a child, and the child should have the freedom to play. My babysitter would take me to the park every single day for 2 hours, and I would just like run around the thing and do whatever I felt like I wanted to do. Naturally, that focus starts to shift in our culture, in our society. You start to get into 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade, and it's no longer like, oh, you're just outside playing, but now are you being productive with that? Are you competing? Are you doing this within a sports setting? Are you doing skateboarding? How are you progressing in skateboarding? Are you achieving this? It's like, it kind of naturally, whether you subconsciously do it to yourself, wanting to progress and to elevate, or your parents or your whatever you're watching on TV. So as I started to make this transition shift into youth basketball and youth football, I felt the complete opposite when I did when I was a kid running around outside. I felt invincible. If there was something I wanted to climb or do, I was like, I have inside of me the ability to make that movement happen. And I would do that movement, whether it was climbing something, jumping off of something, or riding my bike, swimming. It was like that was something that movement was available to me. As soon as I got within the youth sports arena, it was the exact opposite. I felt completely out of place. I felt very incapable. and was very confused. My parents were like, oh yeah, you want to play basketball, just go play basketball. And I think they assumed that the coaches in the program would take you from A to Z, but it was kind of like, you're just playing basketball, here's a basketball, go kid. And I was like, I don't even know the rules of basketball, what's happening. And so the relationship that I had with my coaches was they would roll their eyes at me and sit me on the bench. So I would just be on the bench during games, I don't know what's going on, but this is what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to do sports. So I had that experience with basketball. I had that same experience with youth football, which is I want to engage, but I actually don't know how to. And I'm hoping that there is somebody who can help guide me into how to navigate this world, because there's rules, there's opponents. It was just something that wasn't part of my lifestyle, where there's other families that you're watching sports all the time. Maybe parents are coaching, and that's something that's part of what they do. So this kind of lasted in and out until I was 15. And when I was 15, I felt like I was not an athlete. And I believed that athleticism was something that you were born with, and that you just either were an athlete or you weren't. And if you weren't an athlete, well, that just is what it is. But I still had all this energy and desire to move, because that's what made my heart and my mind feel good. So I wanted to box, and my dad brought me to a boxing gym, which actually was a mixed martial arts gym. And the gym manager said, hey, let's take you to your first jiu-jitsu class. And in my first jiu-jitsu class, I got to wrestle with a kid, and I had 3 brothers, so we wrestled all the time. We wrestled for 30 minutes straight, and I had a smile on my face the whole time. And there were rules, you're trying to get me and I'm trying to get you. But other than that, it was hey, just don't bite, don't scratch, don't, kick in the private parts. Other than that, it was free game. So I felt free all of a sudden. And there was this freedom that I felt when I was wrestling with people, to use my movement however I could best. But then there was also this structure of the class. We come into the class for 10 to 15 minutes. We do some physical training and some drills and some warm-ups. And then for the next 20, 25 minutes, the instructor goes in front of everyone, and everyone sits and watches. And he says, today we're going to learn this skill. And this skill, you perform it by going this move. This is the first move. This is the second move. This is the third. This is the fourth. Let me show you that again. This is the first, this is the second, this is the third, this is the fourth. Come around to the backside and watch it one more time. Okay, does everybody see it? Yes. Okay, now you need to go feel it. Partner up with somebody and practice that movement. So this was the first time that I was introduced into the see-feel type of training, which CrossFit actually, in a very small and condensed way, started to incorporate inside of their classes, which made it such a strong community builder and made you feel like you were progressing and learning, instead of you just go into a regular Globo gym and I guess there's a machine here. What do I do? Do I have to pay a personal trainer to handhold me? CrossFit also started to adopt this natural way that humans learn, which is by seeing other people do things and then trying it out and feeling it within our body and ingraining it into the kinesthetic awareness. So when there was a path laid out for me on how to learn in this, I was like, oh yeah, I can do this all day. You're teaching me how to do this. I know the steps. Let me do this again and again and again. And then at the end of the class, everyone wrestles live. And so you get to integrate it. You get to practice. This was very different than the experience of basketball and football, where it was the practice was live. It was show up, we're going to run, and now we're going. And there wasn't this very okay, we're going to do this process. We're going to do this process. It was just throw the ball at him and catch it. It was a lot for my nervous system. So once I found that, I took that see-feel type of martial arts learning mentality and applied it to so many different things. Because from 15, when I told you I was feeling not an athlete, until I was in maybe 6 months, my oldest brother had come home from university. And up until that point in my life, if he wanted to dog on me or if he wanted to wrestle me, that was it. That's what happens when you're a younger brother. Yeah. And it wasn't that way. And I was like, wow, I have completely changed. I'm confident in school right now. I don't feel like I'm going to get bullied. I'm holding my chest higher. I feel confident in my own skin. Something had radically changed. And I was able to take that mentality and say, if there's anything else that I would like to do with my physical form and body, all I have to do is apply myself to the training of that. And so it's training of that, not the playing of football or the playing of basketball, but actually training something and seeing the parts that make it up. And so from there, I went into CrossFit, Muay Thai, mixed martial arts, boxing, wrestling, running, swimming, gymnastics. Like I was just like, let me do it all. If there's anything that made me feel called to learn something within my body, I was like, I want to train this. And yeah, that's kind of how I ended up being a movement nerd, a lover of movement, so to speak, which I think a lot of people can also empathize and have a similar story to.
Yeah, no, I mean, I literally, you were speaking to me right there. I have the same story. I have the older brothers, organized sports. It was kind of like I had an injury myself, and that's where I kind of shifted into like, I want to do more working out. Like I want to, rehab myself, feel better, get stronger, all that.
Yeah.
So I have a very similar story with what you're saying. Yeah.
And I just think especially because I'm a mom now, like becoming a mother, I think of my son and I look at him and he's testing all of his limits and he's just like, he's fearless and he's just in his body and he has so much confidence. And I'm like, I want him to keep that.
Yeah.
I don't want him to lose that because it's so special and I want to protect that. And I'm just already thinking like, there's so many things that we want to do differently than what I think a lot of people would expect to, parents to do in our normal society today. But, I think it makes me excited to have these tools because to see my son be able to keep that confidence is everything. Because I know exactly, I mean, females, males different, for sure. But I think, the own confidence things that I struggled with in my high school years and in my early years, for sure. I think that's a huge conversation that parents can benefit from. So when it comes to how you teach people today, can we get into the nitty gritty? Because I think, we are as a society, if you go to group fitness classes or if you do traditional training, strength training, there's a lot of things in terms of how they're teaching. But as you talk about, there's a lot of I don't know the best way to say it, but like incorrect movement that is being taught that is leading people to not feel their best, perform their best, and move their body in their best way. So can we get nitty gritty on like, what are some of the movements? What are some of the things that you are teaching your people? I mean, it's like, give us a little sneak peek even into your Primal movement course, because we're in it and it's juicy and there's so much in there and there's so much reframing that we've had to do in our minds and how we move. And, we'll be walking, to the park with our son and we're like, oh my gosh, like get into your body right now. It's a trip.
You see it everywhere now. All you see when you see people walk, I'm always like, look at their feet. Look how he's doing that. Look at that. It's
wild.
Like you can't help yourself now. Yeah.
Our minds have been blown. But let's get into the nitty gritty of like, what are some of these movements that are incorrect and that are leading people to have pain? And what are some things that people can start to do to get out of pain and get back into primal movement?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to start really, really broad with this, which is a core fundamental belief that either you may have or you don't. And this will set the stage for how you go about training or viewing your own movement. The first belief that I think is absolutely crucial is believing that inherently my human body is strong and capable. Like, done. It was born like that. Like you see your son, he is like, got it. And he didn't get it because he was underneath a barbell, or he didn't get it because he was in the gym training pull-ups and doing push-ups and doing all of these different activities. So there's a message that is being put out into the world right now that if you are not strength training, there's no way that you're going to be strong. If you are not doing mobility training, there's no way that you're going to have the correct mobility that you need to live your life in a good way. So having this core fundamental belief that as we are born, we are gifted with all the strength, all of the knowledge, and all of the intuitive abilities to progress ourselves in any way that we need possible. This is like extremely important because so many people, when I'm saying like we need to look at movement, they're like, okay, when can I get back to strength training? When can I get back to going into the gym? And we're confusing movement with aesthetic training, movement with ego training or competition or other things. But movement is such a broad topic, and that is an important thing. And the next step is saying, okay, if my body is inherently strong, if my body is inherently gifted with all of its ability to learn and to do whatever and to mold itself into whatever healthy person I need it to, it also is designed to be free of pain for a lifetime, and not to be injured, and not to have back spasms, and not to have my meniscus tear. And my body should not need an orthopedic surgeon to cut me open or to do something without an explanation. I'm so grateful that we do have physical therapy and orthopedic surgeons that if I got in a car wreck, somebody can put me back together in a very complete and pretty well way. That's amazing. But when people are, oh, when you're 40 and you're 50, yeah, you just need a new hip, or you just need a new back, you need a spinal fusion surgery, or like right now, ACL tears are just absolutely skyrocketing in youth sports and youth athletes. And so this perspective is the most important one that I found myself talking about, is that in general, humans are very fast on a downward slope of degrading in their bodies. And our joints, our connective tissue are really suffering. And people have back pain that they live with. They have knee pain that they live with. They've got plantar fasciitis. They've got Achilles tendonitis. And so many things are happening to our physical body. And there's one camp that will say, our bodies are not designed the best, and they're just we just do the best with what we've got in the life we have. And you might need a new hip. You might need new back surgery. You might have a back spasm and you're 30 or 40, so you just can't run anymore. You can't do X, Y, and Z. And then there's another camp that's slowly emerging that is saying, hold on, my gut is telling me that this isn't the way it's supposed to be. That I should be able to live my life, play with my kids, have extracurricular hobbies, and not only wake up and feel good, but have physical energy and a desire like I did when I was a child to approach these things with curiosity, excitement, a stoke, and I should go to bed feeling pretty good. I should not need a chiropractor or physical therapy or somebody else outside of my form to put me back together. It's a fragility versus durability. Do you believe that the human body is durable and strong, or do you believe that the human body is fragile and that you need to go to the gym every single day just to keep the parts together?
That's juicy. That's so good.
That is, and I think even speaking right into what you were saying, it's like, as we age, I can even just speak for myself. Like, I've been training certain ways my whole life, and it's like I felt like I was slowly degrading, like you said. Maybe we're not sleeping as much. We have a young child, and you're just like, okay, I can't train how I used to. But like, even though I'm not training how I used to, I'm still having these little aches and pains and not feeling as good. And it's like, I don't want to feel that way. And I'm like, none of this is like really making sense like it used to. So it's like going through your course and seeing your information and just diving deep into that. And it's like, man, this is the solution. I want to feel better in my 50s. I want to feel better in my 50s than I do in my 30s.
Yeah.
And you can. Yeah. And it's like, I think it just goes right there with what you're saying.
So if you do start having this conversation of, are we durable, are we fragile, and then you look at the spectrum of human history, and you say like, okay, well, did my great grandpa experience this? And then if you look at the statistics of how many people are getting knee repair surgeries, how many people are getting back surgeries, and the statistics and the money is there, that it is exponentially rising much faster than anybody could have anticipated. And it hasn't risen enough and been so apparent within our own individual lifestyles and communities that people are starting to question it. It's not there yet. Both you, myself, and both of you are kind of like on the fringe of this. Very much so like in the 80s, 90s, maybe, people that were on the fringe of like, hold on, what's going on with our diet? I don't think that we should be eating Pop-Tarts and eating cereal every day, and I should feel these sensations in my gut, and I should be having acne, and my hormones should be all kind of crazy. Like, maybe I should take a look at what it is that we're eating. We're in that same kind of situation right now when we're talking about the musculoskeletal system and movement, that we're saying maybe the way that we are going about this is a little bit off course. And it's nobody's fault. We grew up, or like the human race grew up, outside. We were hunting, we were gathering, we were sleeping and resting on the ground. We were moving all day, at least 5 miles a day. If we had to rest, we didn't have chairs. Most of the time we were on the ground or on a very low chair. So we were moving in these very subtle ways. We didn't have barbells. We didn't have hex bars, pull-ups, CrossFit. Physical therapists weren't around. Chiropractors weren't even invented. So you say, okay, so we were at one place okay. And we were okay without a 24-hour fitness. We were okay without Kairos and all of these people. What happened? Well, it's very simple. We started to create the world that we have right now, which is a modern society where most of the manual labor that I have to do is texting and typing and sitting. I don't have to go out and hunt and use my body. So there's a lifestyle that is not movement rich and nourishing to us. So because there's a lack of that, we need to supplement our lifestyles today with movement. Or you can go back to the bush and hunt and gathering, but that's really difficult for a lot of us. Or instead, you could say, okay, there's a lack of movement. There's a lack of exercise. There's a lack of the word fitness came around. And so we said, let's supplement our lifestyles with that. So we started to supplement, and now we're in the science project of what should we supplement with? Check out this barbell, check out this CrossFit, check out this thing. And as we continue to experiment with alternative forms of movement to feed our life, knowing that movement is a requirement to have a healthy lifestyle, we are finding that the supplementation that we are providing to ourselves is not meeting the requirement for our standard of living. And the standard of living for everybody should be a pain-free lifestyle. I should be able to be pain-free and have the freedom to move. That's kind of the message I'm pushing. Like, you want to make that, but most people have resided and said, like, hey, I know 5 people right now with back pain. If I've got back pain, that's just the card that I pulled. So as we understand that all fitness is supplementary to our lifestyle, just like right now, Pop-Tarts, Top Ramen, other processed foods, those are supplementary for not having a diet that was very much connected to nature. And we realized that, hey, we can't just supplement it with anything, but we want to supplement it with something that is aligned with the natural way that humans have evolved. And the closer that we can supplement diet, movement, community with the way that the human has evolved to be in a very healthy, happy place, the better things can be.
So good. And it's like, it's just taking everything back to the basics. I just feel like ever since we became parents, it's like we just see things through such a different lens, and it's so much more emphasis on getting back to the basics, slower living. I think that unfortunately a lot of people, I think that the argument for so many people would be like, well, I can't, I'm sitting in a cubicle all day. Yeah. Like that sounds cool for you guys. Like, you work for yourselves or whatever. And I think that the typical person is like, well, I can't because, and it sounds like a valid reason. So I would love to know what you would say to those people who are, they're getting up, they're getting ready quickly, getting into their car, commuting to work, going to work, sitting in a cubicle, commuting back, sitting in traffic, coming home, sitting down for dinner, and then they're exhausted and they sit in front of the TV until it's time to go to bed and they mosey over to go to bed, right? I think we have realized that we want to live a specific way because we want a full life as a family. Yeah. And we've made a lot of decisions in our life in order to support that. What would you say to someone who's in that place right now and they're just like, but that doesn't sound feasible for me?
Yeah. Again, this is probably one of my favorite conversations is distilling all of the information that I've been able to acquire through my own movement practice and through coaching and through doing crazy things like competitive Olympic weightlifting and CrossFit, and just spending all my time thinking about this, to saying, how can I actually affect change within somebody who is that picturesque office worker, 9 to 5, nonstop, very stressful life. And there is some very easy changes that we can make. Just like with somebody who has a diet that is very non-supportive for their health. The best thing that you can do for diet is the same with movement. You want to eliminate the biggest things, the biggest pieces that are going out of alignment with nature. So like with diet, it's like processed, food, sugars, all that stuff. Like, just eliminate that completely. You're already going to start to feel better because you're giving the body space to do what it does, which is a healing machine. For the office worker and for the classic person, it's the two things the big no-nos or the big things you want to look at is the office chair and the couch. Those two things, if you can have a healthy relationship between how you rest and sit while you do your work in front of a computer and how you decompress and rest at the end of the day, even if it's in front of Netflix, if you can just change those two things, probably 25% of the tension or low aggravating pains that you feel can just be reduced by just changing those two things. And so we know that standing desk is an option, that a ground desk is an option. One of my favorite options is a kneeling chair. It really helps the posture and puts the pressure in the back glutes instead of the low back and the hip flexors. So when I work with somebody who has an office job, usually they have back pain as well. We change the office chair. We get rid of the office chair, throw it in the trash. And ideally, we say in your office space, we want you to have a ground resting position, a kneeling chair, and then a standing position. And you flow up and down through those as you feel throughout your day. So now we're kind of like moving as we're working instead of staying in one spot in one place. And there's a lot of people that just do the kneeling chair, and they have a lot of really good benefit from that. And then at the end of the day, it's like, put the couch outside, don't even make it an option, sell it on Craigslist, do something, get it out of the house so the kids, everyone doesn't want to sit on the couch. Get yourself a nice rug, some like meditation pillows, and put your feet up at the end of the day and actually give yourself some rest and some break and understand what it means to turn off, to decompress. And if you can turn off and you can decompress, then the body has room to breathe and to heal itself. So those are the two biggest things. And if they can conquer and climb those mountains, then you add something like a 30-minute movement practice in the morning, giving them some positive movement medicine. And oh my goodness, this person in 3 to 4 months is going to have a brand new body.
Wow.
And I think sometimes people struggle to wrap their head around these concepts because what you're saying and preaching is so simple. It is like such basic principles that like, I don't think people can look at the simplicity of it and they're like, no. There has to be more. Like there needs to be like more, like how do I, and it's like everything you're saying, it really is just so simple. And it's like,
Well, it's like we love to overcomplicate,
Exactly.
And then it's like we live in a society of you need to have a really expensive gym membership in order to be healthy. You need to go to the best gym. You need to pay the personal trainer, which I have a personal trainer who I love and adore, and we've had her on the podcast, and she's changed my life in so many ways. But I think like for the people who are just starting, it's like no, it is so simple.
Yeah.
It is so simple. One of the things I love about your program is that we get in the program, we're like, all right, we're ready to recode, which you need to explain what that means.
Yeah, I was sketching.
Because people need to know the details on that. But like the first videos are like how to sit, how to walk. So you've covered how to sit. All right, we've got that. Do you have a couch in your house, by the way? I'm like, are we throwing our couch away? We need to talk about that.
They've been sold. They have been sold.
They've been sold. No couches whatsoever. I love it. We need a picture later of your living room so we can see this.
MTV Cribs video of you.
Yeah, we need a full MTV Cribs of like what does the Primal movement Bam's home look like? Like 100%. We need the full tour. That has to happen.
Just as a side note, if you have kids, wrestling mats. You want to make the living room a huge wrestling mat station, and there will be flips, and that is like awesome. The best gift that you can give your kids.
Yeah.
And that's what we did growing up too.
Well, even with our boy Dawson right now, he's like really discovering he puts his head down and he loves to flip right now. So like he loves flipping and flipping, and he just keeps doing it over and over, and it's like.
And sometimes I'm like, bro, you can't do it off the bed because like we're gonna have an injury. It gets a little. He has no fear, so I'm like, we're catching him like as he almost falls on his head. But so okay, we got the sitting down, but one of the other things you talked about was walking. And Kyle mentioned earlier, now that we've learned about this, we can see it. We'll be walking to the park. We're like, oh my gosh, like we can see it in real life. So I would love for you to talk about the simplicity of this. We walk every single day, whether you're walking to the refrigerator, you're walking to the bathroom, wherever you're walking, hopefully you're walking outside. But can we like break down that? And also, what is the recode?
Okay, so the recode, and then we'll feed that into walking. The recode is just a fancy word that helps us reframe a specific time where we are up-leveling our movement. Like everyone knows what a workout is. We're going to a place and we're going to work things out of our body or whatever that means. A recode is consciously saying that the way that my nervous system and my body creates a movement, I'm going to try and change that. And the human body is so brilliant that as soon as we find a way that is good, then it goes into our subconscious so we can learn other skills. For instance, writing. Most of us have a dominant hand that we write with, so we can write. And it took us a while to code our signature or our specific handwriting into our hand. As soon as it was in our hand and in our subconscious nervous system, then it was integrated, and then we went into other things. We learned cursive, or we just did something else. Nobody took the time to actually code their opposite hand how to handwrite because they already had one that was good. But this is a really good analogy to show us that there is a ability for our body to learn skills. And so the primal movements of the bodies are skills that we all learned. Even more miraculous, they are skills that we self-taught ourselves. Just like your son, you watched him teach himself how to crawl, teach himself how to sit upright, teach himself how to balance on one leg, how to flip. Like, you didn't say, okay, today we're going to be learning to flip off the bed, and you're going to put your head here, then you're going to go like this. No, it's just like it was a self-taught, natural, intuitive-led way to organize our body in time and space for a specific outcome. So it's like regressing somebody's brain to saying we're not working out, instead we're working in. And the working in that we're doing is to change how your nervous system code creates a movement, like handwriting, or like a gentle squat to the ground, or reaching to the ground, or walking, which is something that I believe that probably 80% of people are doing in a way that is like if you ever see someone like write and just like scribble handwriting like a doctor's note, and you're like, I can't read this. Like, that's how I feel like people are walking. They're leaving so much on the table for healthy movement, good muscular activation, and like feeling really good in their bodies. And the biggest reason that is happening is because of, in my opinion, our sedentary lifestyle. When we're sitting in chairs, most of the front of our body is used to posture ourselves and hold ourselves up. Our core, hip flexors, quads, and our hips kind of get tucked underneath. The longer that we stay in a position, the more that our body and our nervous system says, this is what I need to be strong and to sustain this lifestyle. It's a chair lifestyle. I'm a chair athlete. And so then when you go to walking happens as our chest moves forward and our hips are pulled back. We're propelled by the back side of our body, by the back musculature of our body. But if you grew up in the normal school system in the Western society where you sat in a chair from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, all throughout high school and through college, and have an office job, you're now 30 years old, and for 6 to 8 hours of most of your life, you've been sitting in a chair, and now you go to walk, which is the opposite. Your hips have to pull back instead of being tucked underneath. It's a little bit confusing for your body and your nervous system. So one of the best things that we can give to our bodies if we are stuck forward is to reintroduce it to the strength of the backside, the power of the backside, of the glutes, of the hamstrings, of the lats, of a tall posture. And it's one of the most difficult things to find for some people. It's one of the reasons we have back pain. It's one of the reasons why we go on a walk and we feel our knees. It's like, we're putting all this pressure into the front of our knees, we're using the front of our body to try and propel us forward instead of doing what it wants to do, which is to be mostly our braking system for us. So with walking, there's a lot to it, but simply just getting yourself into the backside is one of the biggest pieces for that. If you are wondering whether you are stuck in the front side or stuck in the back side, there are two things that can really dial you in on this. The first is your feet. If your feet are stuck wide, like a duck shape, if they're stuck outside, meaning stuck, like it's very uncomfortable just to put your feet forward, most likely your lower legs and your femurs are rotated open, like you're sitting on your couch. All your legs are rotated open, almost like in a squat position. The second thing is if your hips are pushed in front of your ankles. And when I mean hips, I mean the side hip bone. If that's pushed in front of your foot, if you've got a banana curve shaped body, if you look at yourself from the side and your hips are forward of your feet, then you are kind of like living in this banana thrusted shape. And it's really difficult for you to pull your hips back and to go forward.
How do they fix that? It's so, I'm like, I'm seeing banana shapes everywhere. They're at the mall, they're at the park, they're at Whole Foods, they're everywhere. I'm like, and it's made us so much more aware. I'm like, when we're walking, like, oh my gosh, because I think I'm banana. Besides, like, I have very engaged glutes most of the time, but I feel like, wow, like it has been something that is so mind-blowing. It's everywhere. No wonder everyone has back pain. What's the first thing they have to do? What's the first thing they can do to start walking better?
The biggest thing that you can do is first awareness. Where are my hips in time and space? Even if you don't agree with that, you think that the banana body is good or the hips back is bad, it doesn't matter. You want to know where your hips are when you're standing. Most people have no idea where their hips are in relationship to their feet, in relationship to their ears. And that's really important because your ankles are one of the balance centers, and then on top of that is your hips, and then on top of that is your ear. And so if those things are all out of place, you're going to feel like you're not really sure where you are when you're standing. If you're standing in a room and you feel awkward, it's because you yourself are not aware of who you are in time and space, and pulling yourself into an alignment where your ankle, hip, and ear are stacked, you feel balanced, you feel grounded, you feel there. So that's one of the biggest things with all of this process is first, awareness. Look at yourself in the mirror. Have someone film you. Where are my hips? Whoa, that's really interesting. My hips are that far forward, or that's what I do when I stand. And then the second piece you can do is to create a lifestyle that promotes a hip back or a backside dominant type of environment for you. So like ground resting or eliminating couch sitting, chair sitting, those types of things will promote you to have your hips forward and tucked underneath. If you eliminate chair sitting and couch sitting and replace it with something like ground sitting or like a kneeling chair, then a majority of your life, your hips are going to be pulled back. If you sleep on your stomach and you're constantly in a banana shape into the bed because it's kind of sucking you, learn to sleep on your side, like in the side fetal position or on your back, those types of things. So the second piece is like rearranging your lifestyle. And then the third piece is then actually trying to change how your body postures and holds itself, changing how the muscles are working, activating some different muscles, and going into like more of a workout type mentality. If all three of those pieces aren't there, it's going to be really, really difficult to have that change. And in order of operations, those are the most important. Number one is have some awareness on your body. It could take 5 minutes in the mirror. Just put your hands on your hips and just move your hips forward and backwards, side to side. The second piece is like saying like, okay, what environments do I put myself in? Okay, the car, sitting at the dining room chair, my office chair at home, the couch, and just notice, oh wow, I've got all of these positions that make it really comfy and easy for me to like couch potato out. And then third, say, do I have the time, space, and mental energy to commit myself to a 15 or 30-minute movement program, like in the morning or at the end of the day, where I can reset myself into a backside kind of position. That's kind of how we do this whole primal movement approach with people.
I mean, and again, it's simple. Everything you're saying
Simplicity
here is simple.
is everything
and
here.
One of the last things I kind of wanted to ask you is like, obviously, I feel like in the fitness industry in general, anytime you go against the grain a little bit, you can get a lot of hate. But I see the community you're in. I feel like anyone who I've talked to who even know about you and the movement, it feels more of a community of love and acceptance in a sense. But like, do you get a lot of kickback from the stuff you're preaching and doing? And because I mean, the thing is, I see you have so like everything you do and the people in your community are getting real results. Like there's real change. So like, it's hard to deny that, but do you get a lot of kickback with what you're doing and you know, and that?
For the most part, I'm really intentional about the message that I'm putting out, about the vibe and the frequency that it's on. And the frequency is like what we talked about in the beginning. Like in general, humans are hurting. And I don't think there is a sane person alive that would say, no, we're doing just fine. Everyone's perfect. Everyone's got it good. So if we can all come together and say there is a problem, let's just all acknowledge that there is a problem. When we start from that place, now we're on the same team again. And we're no longer like at each other's throats. And so it's a good thing that you've got CrossFit. It's a good thing that you've got this person over here speaking this message and this person trying this thing and this thing, because we're all trying to do the same thing. We start to kick back at each other when we lose sight of why we started doing this stuff in the first place. and egos get involved. And the way that I like to frame it for myself, for my message, and for everyone else is, in general, people can search for what is true. They can search for what is right. And then there's other people that can search for like what is beautiful. I love life. I love the human experience. I love people, community, and the thought of somebody experiencing a life that does not have a lot of pain, that is full of rich movement experiences, of hard movement challenges that are positive competition, where we're like probably what both of you have felt going into a CrossFit setting. It was a difficult workout, but you didn't hurt yourself, and everyone high-fived at the end, and you're panting, and you made it out, and you're like, I feel so good right now.
Yeah.
Obviously, if we continue to do CrossFit, it might input into our bodies and negatively harm us, but there are so many instances where sports, fitness settings, martial arts, whatever it is, can positively impact our lives in some really, really profound ways. And for somebody to have no injuries and not be debilitated by pain and have a full 0 to 100 years of their life full of all those experiences, to me is absolutely beautiful. So I'm like, how can we all help each other get there? Because I don't think I have the answers. I'm just saying, hey, let's take care of the foundation. That's the foundation.
That's good.
A beautiful life is the foundation. And you do not need a 200, 300-pound bench press in order to achieve that. You do not need a 300 or 400-pound back squat to achieve that. You do not need to be the fastest runner. You don't need to be the whatever performance metrics you want to put on that. It's very, very, very simple. And so when that is like the forefront of the message, it is no longer people feeling attacked on what I think is right or what I think is to be true about the human body. You can think whatever you think about what is right or what is true. At the end of the day, most healthy, sane people will agree that we all want to feel good in our bodies. We all want to look good, and we all want to have the ability to move really good and feel confident dancing, feel confident doing some kind of sports thing, or feel confident that you can play with your son and you're not going to hurt yourself and you have enough energy to continue that over and over and over and over again. So when I keep that the focus of the message, I don't get a lot of kickback because I feel like everyone else is talking about something that has absolutely nothing related to what we're talking about right now.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. And that's what I think it makes it stand out so much. And that's what, why we were like, we have to talk to Bam, because it is a different message, and it's a message that people desperately need.
They do.
So I think the final question is, where can people find you? Where can they connect with you? I will say a little plug for your YouTube channel before we even got your Primal Movement course, which we'll definitely put in the show notes because we can't recommend it enough. For those of you who I think are listening and you really want an overhaul and you really want to learn all of Bam's best work, you need to get the course because it is really, really good. Yeah. But if you're just wanting a taste, the YouTube channel. We love your YouTube channel, love the videos. We've hit up, we're like, our son's napping and we're in the garage. We have a whole garage gym. So we'll go in there and we'll flick on one of your videos and we're like, holy shit, we're like on a broomstick, engaging our glutes. Like this is a next level. But where can people find you and how can they come in and just be able to engage with your work?
The best way is through primalmovement.org. And then if you want to connect with me personally, send me a message on Bam LionHeart, LionHeart at Instagram. But that YouTube resource that you said, which is also could be found when you type in Primal Movement on YouTube, has a lot of free material on there. My goal is this year to try and open source this information as much as possible. It's not my information. It's not anyone's information. This is just how the human body moves. And I'm trying my best to create containers, experiences, and share information so that people can have an opportunity to come to the realization that they already came to from age 0 to 1 or 2. Everyone already came to this realization. We just forgot about it. We forgot that we were super smart and that we didn't need language to teach ourselves movement, that we have the ability to move. So primalmovement.org if you want to get some educational courses, and then that YouTube is also a really good resource for you.
Awesome. Well, we are mind blown. We're going to keep recoding over here.
Yep.
And we appreciate you so much coming on the show. And I know the people who are listening right now who take action and who go and just pop up on one of your videos and move, they're going to see the difference. Because we did in a really short amount of time. In one video. It took one video to say, okay, wow, there's something to this. So you're doing really phenomenal work. So thank you.
Thank you guys so much for having me and for letting me share my piece.